Kalimera! We're in Athens yet again, and we're headed up the slopes of the Acropolis here very shortly. But a beautiful view here from the roof garden of the Byron Hotel. I just wanted to share it with you. The Acropolis Museum just in the distance. A beautiful view here. The placa in that direction. So we're going to make the most of today. We're going to go in a lot of the sites today. We're going to see a lot of different things. So let's go do it. Let's enjoy this beautiful, if hot, day in Athens. So one of the things that we could do here is get a ticket on the phone. Unfortunately, I tried this yesterday and I couldn't seem to get a ticket for everything, and usually they sell a combined ticket. So we're going to go to the ticket office and see if we can get one of those, because otherwise you've got to buy a separate ticket for every one of the sites that we want to see today: the Agora, the Acropolis, Hadrian's Library, and so on. Normally you can scan this QR and they give you the option to buy the combined Athens ticket. So we're going to give it a shot and see what we can get just by going over to the ticket office. Maybe we'll try first though the ticket machine and see if that does anything for us. The machines are down, so I think what we're going to do is go back to the QR code, buy it online, and zip right through the ticket line. If we've got to buy separate tickets, then so be it. This line is a really long one, and with the ticket machines out of order, I managed to get about halfway through with one of them. But it didn't show the combined ticket, which in the high season may not be available, so we're going to see what we can do. Well, slightly later on, I've now got my e-ticket, the actual ticket for the Acropolis, to go up in this hour. And they're selling tickets saying, what time are you going to go up there? Because they're controlling the access to the site. So now we can take that and go through this queue, of which there aren't very many people, thankfully. Unlike the ticket line, which reaches out to the street. And we can get in. Well, thankfully, the ticket on the phone worked pretty well today. Yesterday, it wasn't offering the combined ticket for all the different sites, and I wasn't sure whether they weren't offering that during the high season here in the summertime. But they were, so for 30 euros, we've got access to everything, the Acropolis right now, and then the rest of the sites for the ticket's valid for another 5 or 6 days. So, thankfully, we're in, so we can go up. Now, one of the reasons why I like to come in the south entrance is there are some relics here, such as the one behind me, and others here under this little shelter. So a large inscribed cylindrical altar of Dionysus here. We have a statue of Papos from the Roman stage of the Theater of Dionysus. And many others. We can walk around these for a good part of an hour. And these are relics that were found on the slope. So we're headed up the hill. But it's a good feeling to be back here at the Acropolis. This is probably one of Europe's most important historical sites, and it's in one of my favorite cities in the world, Athens, Greece. More cardio as we go all the way to the top here. Many smaller temples and other little buildings were located on the south slope. It's an important historical site, such as Philippapo is, and it's littered with these little explanation signs that interpret the sites, talking about the things that they found. And I'm sure there's plenty yet to discover. A little Byzantine chapel exists on that hill. Another relic of a little bit later time, but history is important as some of what we see here. And in some ways a little bit more interesting because it's intact and likely used for special services now and again. Now, we saw a piece from the Theater of Dionysus, and here is that theater. This is the smaller of the two theaters, the larger being the Odeon of Herod, which we'll come up to in a little bit. And here we have the remnants of the building that is behind the stage, where the musicians would have been, where people would have prepared for a performance. The auditorium of the Theater of Dionysus. Some older pictures and an idea of just how large it really was going up that hill. Some of the stones have been replaced and others are under the ground, erosion having taken its toll. Let's see, I think we have a little bit more information on this board. Sometimes it takes two boards to interpret an important site. And we're barely up the hill. Sometimes it's important to go to the top and come back down this side to really study what is here, because you come in and you're either instantly overwhelmed or fixated on getting up to the very top. But the top is a long way away, and there's plenty of things to see while you're down here as well. It's intimidating doing what I'm doing sometimes, because you want to be able to show people, whether they're with you in a group or just a few people or lots of people like we've got on this channel, just all that's here, and to be able to stop and smell the roses a little bit, looking at the various stages of history. The earliest stages of the foundation of the Acropolis are much older than the things on it, and there have been repairs, and there have been other reasons to restore it. A large stoa was here. All that is left are these arches. Let me get my head out of the way. And again, you have different layers of history at a particular site. You have early ancient Greek, you have the height of ancient Athens, you have Roman, you have Byzantine, and you have the destruction that happened during the Ottoman period. Just to get it out of the way, the Acropolis only is in the state that it's in, and particularly the Parthenon, due to the Ottoman occupation and the fact that they used the Parthenon as a place to store gunpowder. And in a battle with the Venetians are equally guilty for having lobbed a shell up to the Parthenon and having pretty much blown it to smithereens. in the 1600s. At one time, one could traverse all of the Acropolis, and there were stairs and walkways that went to the other slopes where you went around the bottom and could explore different things. Unfortunately, for the last little while, this staircase and other access points have been closed off. Hopefully they'll open them up again, because it's a lot of fun sort of mountaineering around. On the eastern slope, there's a large cave in the side of the wall over there. The Temple of Asclepios and its remnants. Bits and pieces dug out of the ground or just picked up off of it. Evidence of all the structures that were on this hill. And just a quick look at this board. And more importantly, where that sat in relation to everything else here. As we've been to the Theater of Dionysus. There's this sanctuary, and then the great Odeon of Herod as it appeared in the time. A Roman Stoa. Again, the layers of history peeled back in their ruins.
That's like kind of also pretty real. Okay.
No.
If you do come up to the Acropolis, if my video is not enough for you, and I hope this just gives you a taste, but wear very good footwear. Sandals, not a good idea. There's a lot of difficult steps. You need good grip. If it's colder or damper here, such as it is in the spring and fall, you really want to be able to keep from falling. An archaic fountain, the remnants thereof. The fountain itself, and then in the midst of it, a Byzantine cistern, the one made out of stones, rather than out of finely cut and hewn stones. Different periods in time. In some ways, the Byzantine looks older as it's more primitive, but in fact it's 1,500 years newer than some of the things that you see and will see. As before, there's lots to see. Items that were unearthed and are on display under these shelters. Bits and pieces of history. We'll just pick one. A marble base with an honorary inscription from the Roman times, about 180 AD. Other bits of history are covered and are not really clearly visible. They haven't been cleaned, but we have the foundations in the basement of maybe a temple. Here we have an uncovered cistern, pond, and various other foundation stones as we just sort of wander through the pathway on the south slope. Crowds haven't gotten to their largest point by any stretch of the imagination. It's just after 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're coming up on the Odeon, one of the better preserved sites here. The seating area has been thoroughly restored, and you'll see modern lighting because it's used for concert performances today. Not in the way the Romans had used it. It was covered and of course complete with its outbuilding behind the stage. But still a very usable space. I think in the last 10 years or so, they put these modern stairs in. At one time you had to go up the stone stairs and they were really getting kind of degraded. Some other improvements have been made closer to the top as well. At one time you went up the marble stairs going up to the top of the Acropolis, and now there are improved stairs because it can be kind of dangerous. The remnants of a little stairway now roped off, going up to the top, controlling the flow, but also endeavoring to keep some people safer. We still have the original stairs here behind the Odeon. And another view down. Athens and Piraeus in the distance. Philopapos. See one of my other videos for a video from the top of Philopapos and a better view down to the port. Waiting our turn. Again, sensible footwear. Highly recommended. We're now on the path from the main entrance gate, coming up the side. It winds around both sides here. Spectacular vista here up at the little guard shack. And down to the Odeon. Remnants of COVID times. The stairs get fancier. They've been restored due to all the traffic that comes up here. But still, these cobbles are very uneven, and in places the underlying granite and marble pokes through. Somebody just slipped there. Not enough grip. We'll come back down through that portal a little bit later. Right now, we're in a bit of a queue as we try to get up the stairs. As we inch forward, just a spectacular view above all the people coming up in. You saw some of these things from far away yesterday, and today we're right next to them. As I mentioned earlier, these wooden stairs were built over the marble stairs that you used to go up when you came here, and some of that marble was just getting too unsafe for going up these steps. We're now coming through the Propylaea, the main gate. And just a quick look back at the Temple of Athena Nike. The huge Propylaea, the gate. Magnificent structure. Do not touch the marble. Awe-inspiring every time I come through here. We're up here. One of the most magnificent places in the world. In my introduction shot to all these videos, I'm standing right about there on a day with a lot less crowd and a cool breeze. Today I'd give almost anything for the cool breeze. We'll try to get over to this interpretation board, the shrine of Athena Hygeia, and of course the interpretation of the Propylaea, and how it looked about 1450, prior to a lot of the damages that happened during the Ottoman period. The signs say it best. No, neither I nor probably any tour guide can interpret this site better than they have on these boards. So you owe it to yourself. If I stop and shoot the board for a little while, just pause the video and read it if you're able to. Long time ago, when I was in prep school, I did a presentation on the Acropolis, and I had been here, and it fascinated me. And since that time, I've been back many times, and I always come up here when I come to Greece. And the cool breeze is upon us. Backside of the Propylaea, unfortunately heavily damaged. Unfortunately not preserved, but destroyed by the Ottoman occupiers of Greece during that time. It was only when the Greeks took back Athens, they started trying to do something with it, particularly with the Parthenon. During the early 20th century, more damage was done when they did bad restoration to the building. That bad restoration is now slowly being undone. Concrete reinforcing, things of that nature. Very incorrect historically, and actually very bad for the original materials that still stand today. So the stabilization is ongoing. And of course it's ongoing. The building's been there for nearly 2,500 years. Built in just 9 years, the Parthenon. And we'll do a good walk around as best as we can with this huge crowd. Tour guides and people like myself out here shooting some videos. And of course those who are just curious about it. A little bit of an info board here on the restoration. Good time to pause the video as soon as I get up on it. Information about its restoration. You can make out some of the inner structures. A portion of the interior had the giant statue of Athena, and another portion had the state treasury. The safest place for it, way up on this hill, protected by gods and men. The old temple of Athena stood here, not to be confused with the Erechtheion behind it. So 525 to 500 BC, as opposed to about 445, 450 range for the building of the Parthenon. And just of a note, we'll get to the Erechtheion a little bit later. The caryatid statues are replicas. The originals are in the museum. We continue around. So 1687 being the time of the explosion, when the Venetians shelled the Parthenon, which was being used as gunpowder storage by the Turks, and then an explanation of the bad restoration and the efforts to do a better job. The Parthenon itself needs very little introduction. It is one of the grandest structures, as I've said multiple times, in all the world. And the view of Athens up here is spectacular. We had to pause for somebody getting their picture taken. We don't like people walking in front of our videos. They will. But it's good to be polite. And now from the southeast side. World's greatest photo op. Here the Temple of Rome and Augustus. So built just before the time of Christ, the early part of the Roman domination, with the Parthenon in the background. Here, we head over to the Erechtheion. Up here they say that the Erechtheion has been restored because it's all they can find of the structure. So without reconstructing it with modern materials, what they've done is as much as they can do. Those who've been to the reconstructed Parthenon in Tennessee say, well, they were able to do it, why don't the Greeks? Well, this isn't Disney World, this is history. And though that's an impressive structure, and more or less correct from what we understand, it's also in Tennessee. It's meant to draw visitors and teach about history, but it is in and of itself not history. And that is why, even though the Parthenon was generally destroyed, as were so many structures up here, mostly during the time of the Ottoman occupation of Athens, that unfortunate portion of its history is, however, part of its history. And a lot of people today need to learn that history is not just beautiful. History is not just the good. History is not just what we see as being right today. History is what happened. It is what happened when it happened. It is what happened, how it happened. Because only then can you understand why it happened. All throughout the periods that such a site such as up here on the Acropolis are relevant. 3,000 or more years of continuous history here. From the ancient Greeks to the ancient Greeks who built these structures that you see the remains of today, to the Romans, to the Byzantines, to the Ottomans, and to the present day. The Germans flew the swastika flag from up here. It wasn't right, but it happened. And it's part of the history of this site. Whether you like it or not, it is history. In the distance, Syntagma, the Parliament Square, the large neoclassical building down in the square. Hopefully you can make it out in this video. And the Lycabettus Hill behind. Let's see if we can steal a few more views from around the other side, the more heavily destroyed side of the Parthenon. It's interesting that the Greeks say that the most damage caused to the Parthenon was by the removal of the marbles by Elgin, rather than the destruction of the building itself by the Venetian shelling of the Turkish gunpowder storage magazine, if you will. From this side, the large tree that from certain angles looks like it covers up the worst part of the damage to the columns and to the roof structure. And the little railway used at one time to carry blocks to there from the other part where they're lifted up. Cannon and cannonball from an earlier time. The base of a column. Ah, it is back open here. And here we have the info boards. Some of the best information's here, so we'll pause at every one and just let you have a look at them. About the surface conservation by the experts, the materials used, the project of the scattered architectural members, using and highlighting the scattered blocks of the Acropolis no longer in their original position, identification and categorization, cataloging. The restoration of the outer walls. The restoration of the Temple of Athena Nike. Lots of foundational renovations and structural problems caused by the early renovation efforts, 1835 to 1845, as well as 1935 to 1940, when a lot of concrete was used. Restoration of the Propylaea. In 2015, the Propylaea restoration project was completed. So they discovered certain elements lost, restored them. It is what and how it is, and it is greatly improved since that time, in fact. Here they show the restoration of the Erechtheion, and they revealed the remains of the Byzantine basilica built in the 7th century AD. As these structures were used for so many purposes over the 2,500-year history. And then the misguided restorations of the Acropolis. The Propylaea is found, the Erechtheion, the original caryatid statues, the Parthenon, about where we're standing right now, the Temple of Athena Nike, much improved. They were experimenting, they were playing with different ways to do it. In the early 20th century, they used a lot of concrete to fix it. Ordinary iron for joining architectural members, and just scattering ancient fragments. If they couldn't find a use for it, they threw it on the ground. The sounds of work, whether you can hear them or not, I can hear them. Something's going on in there towards its preservation and continued restoration. Someday maybe they'll do more. Someday maybe it'll look like more. But I'm reasonably certain that they'll only do what's right for the structure from the standpoint of history. And just a comment further reinforcing what I was saying about anachronism earlier. History is history. You can't change history. The Parthenon was built, I'm trying to do the math in my head, over 2,400 years ago, in a culture that used indentured servants and slaves to build it. All that work was done without any kind of modern tools. It was all done, all that marble, Pentelic marble, was cut by hand. I'm sure a lot of the ways that that was accomplished are in today's world completely wrong. But we do not destroy these monuments because of the way they were built or because how that society existed. We look at that society and we learn from it. And we revere their accomplishments, sometimes no matter how they were achieved. I think that's an important lesson for a lot of people in the 21st century. Temple of Athena Nike, better seen here, and you can compare to the info board where we looked at the info board just a little while ago. And it is greatly improved. The propylaea are greatly improved. A little history lesson here on the Temple of Athena Nike. One last look down there. Well, while I might not be in the best light here, this is where I always take my little picture of myself with you-know-what in the background. So I figured it was only fitting to say, thanks for watching Travel with Chip. Please subscribe, share, appreciate all your support. I want you to look at all these videos I'm doing while we're here in Athens. These are some of the greatest things you'll ever see, and I hope you come to see them yourself someday. So thanks for watching. Again, check out all the other videos, and so much thanks for following us on this journey.